Three guys walk into a bar, an alcoholic, a priest, and a child molester. Whoa. That's just the first politician. Okay, just the first. There's still two more that are gonna walk in. Hey, welcome to Cross Politic. It's good to be with you this Friday evening. Pastor Toby Chalk Knox on the water.
I want to hear the rest of this joke.
It's coming because we're going to be talking about three bills.
No. Folks, our upcoming Fight Laugh Feast conference is just 67 days away. Is that correct, really? Is it 67?
Something like that. 67?
Do we count right? I don't know. I'm looking at people who might know something.
They're like, it's
all right, whatever. That's what it says. It's going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee, October 6th to the 8th. Remember, it's lies, propaganda, storytelling, and the serrated edge.
Hey, you know who confirmed with me today?
Who?
Megan Basham.
What?
Oh, awesome. Yes.
Megan.
We have a journalist coming.
On our live show on Saturday afternoon.
You know, I think we know this.
Journalism and lies.
Yes.
I wonder if she...
I mean, look at it. Lies, propaganda, storytelling. Yeah. That's all journalism.
And journalism's been, yep.
Oh, man. Megan.
Yep.
I'm excited to have Megan. She's been doing some good work.
Yeah, she has. Yeah.
So, anyways, come out for Beer and Psalms the first night. Mm-hmm. Amazing lineup of speakers Friday and Saturday, which includes George Gilder, Jared Longshore, Pastor Doug Wilson, Dr. Ben Merkel. I'll be giving a talk. I think there is even one slot left that we haven't announced yet that we're still working on. Mm-hmm. Then there's going to be, of course, the live show at the end with Megan Basham. Also, don't forget Chuck Knox.
Yeah.
He's going to be sitting down with Pastor and Mrs. Wilson and Dr. Ben and Becca Merkel.
That's right.
Talking about, what did I say? How stories in your family win?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Telling stories, reading stories. Winning. So that your family wins, right? And don't miss our awesome vendors, meeting new friends, and stuff for the kids too, like jumpy castles, and if you ask nicely, infant baptisms. Also, did you know you can save money by signing up for a club membership? Go to fightlaughfeast.com and sign up for a club membership today and then get $100 off your registration for the conference. We can't wait to fellowship with you, sing psalms with you, and celebrate God's goodness in Knoxville, October 6th through the 8th. So sign up today.
So there's three bills that are kind of going on out there. This is
making
kind
a lot of noise, yeah.
This is kind of a weird episode because we're going to be talking, we're going to be mashing.
Unlike any of our other episodes, this is going to be a weird one.
There's actually some complicated things to tease out here.
I love our new...
But this is Congress constantly running plays on us, really, ultimately is what this show's about.
They're playing...
How Congress runs plays on American people, right?
Okay.
So there's three bills. There's this PACT Act, the CHIPS Plus bill, and the Respect for Marriage Act. We've already talked to this.
PACT, CHIPS,
and the Respect for Marriage Act.
Hebrews 13.
That's right, Hebrews 13. The PACT Act is a veterans bill. The CHIPS Act is a semiconductor bill.
Yeah.
And we'll get into more details later. And then, of course, Respect for Marriage Act.
It's about marrying animals.
And
who could be against that?
Joy Reid actually picks up all three and mashes them together with some odd results.
Summarize. And I have to give Schumer credit on this. He has now put forward bills called the CHIPS Plus bill, which is for making America more competitive against China. Republicans are against it. Respect for Marriage Act. I mean, you couldn't have a better name. Republicans are against it. And this bill that would actually give money, more VA benefits to veterans who were injured in wars. Republicans are against it. I think that's fairly clear.
Yeah, or it's not.
Right. I was thinking about the Defense for Marriage Act. I mean, the only thing she can say about it is it's got a great name.
Well, it's that. She did say earlier in the show, she's like, this is against, this is for gay marriage and also interracial marriage. Who would be against interracial marriage?
Right.
It's like, wait a second.
Gay marriage and interracial the same?
Yeah, that's right.
No,
gay is not the new black. I watched a Vodi Bakum talk about that.
I think it's even worse than that. I think it's like, hey, dog poo and pizza. And it's like, hey. And it's like, I don't want the dog poo. Oh, you hate pizza.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? That's how they're doing it to us.
So and the way she already paints it, she just says Republicans are against them all. She doesn't explain it.
Right.
Well, and then Jon Stewart, who's been lobbying for veterans for years.
He's been on veterans for a long time.
He's been on that issue for a long time. Anyways, he gets ticked about that the Republicans aren't for this PACT Act, this veterans bill.
America's heroes who fought in our wars outside sweating their off with oxygen, battling all kinds of ailments, while these sit in the air conditioning, walled off from any of it. They don't have to hear it. They don't have to see it. They don't have to understand that these are human beings. Do you get it yet?
This is a pro-life rally?
I know, seriously. It sounds like a pro-life rally. Remember under the Biden administration, the Obama administration.
You keep doing that.
Joe Biden.
Veterans and veterans hospitals got into horrible condition.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the healthcare, not the actual physical hospitals, but the healthcare for veterans went really south under the Biden administration.
But you got
why would the Republicans be? They're for veterans. They've always been. I don't understand John's response here.
Well, I think, okay, there's a couple different things going on. So first, the bill was passed in the House. It went to the Senate. Everybody voted for it. While it was at the Senate, though, Republicans originally voted for it. While it was at the Senate, they made an amendment to the bill, or they changed something in the bill that made some discretionary spending go over into mandatory spending. Okay. When they did that, all the Republicans voted against it.
Oh.
That's
so what you're saying is it's the Democrats who are basically holding care for veterans hostage based on this financial shenanigans.
Right.
They're saying they were setting it up that way.
They were setting it up. But this is what's interesting. So part of what Republicans, and I think just Republicans, conservatives, period, not inside of politics, people who are outside of politics, the people who are outside of politics are getting this message. Why can't you just jump on board with everything that we're doing? Why can't you just be a part of making this work? We're trying to help people here. And so that's how, so when you hear it, this is kind of the tone that they use against you at the end of the day.
And it is time for us to quit the politics, stop trying to score political points, stop putting party over country, lay down our arms. My God, if we can't agree on this, what in the hell are we going to agree on? Rebuilding the manufacturing base, good-paying jobs, union construction, outcompeting China, national security. Come on, let's do this. Let's do it together. But we have a small group of people who have hijacked the Republican Party, and the leadership in this House on the Republican side is more concerned with defeating Democrats than doing something that's best for the United States of America.
So that's
a response to the CHIPS bill.
That's Tim Ryan. He's talking about the CHIPS bill, but again,
what's wrong with the bill?
Right, but what's wrong with
compete with China?
Why can't it's the veterans?
It's gonna create jobs.
Lay down your arms.
Lay down your arms and stop playing politics. And then, and here's the deal. When I first saw this, I saw this last night, and I was like, man, that seems very compelling. Why wouldn't Republicans support something like the Veterans Act or the CHIPS bill? I understand the gay marriage.
Respect for marriage.
But that's obvious. The other one isn't so obvious to me because with the CHIPS bill, you are creating a whole bunch of jobs, right? With the Veterans Act, they've given
government doesn't really create jobs, but
I understand what they're after here. But with the Veterans Act, hold on, these guys given their lives.
Right.
They have putting their lives out there on the line for us to have these lovely freedoms.
This
should be
fishy.
Very simple.
Yeah.
And then Representative Toomey came out, and this came out on the 23rd. By the way, this is the 29th.
Yeah.
So on the 23rd, he decides to present an amendment to the bill. Listen to this because this is powerful. This is a very good observation from Toomey.
Let me be clear. The nature of my objection is not about the fact that this legislation authorizes about $280 billion, I think.
I'm going to start it at a certain
for
time so I can match his.
Health care for veterans that resulted from toxic exposure. What everybody should be aware of is that absent this legislation, existing statute already obligates the federal government through the VA to spend about $400 billion over the next 10 years.
Do they need another $280
now,
billion?
the $400 billion that we were already going to spend is put under the discretionary spending caps in that category of discretionary spending because, as you know, Mr. President, discretionary spending is limited. There's a cap every year on how much can be spent in this discretionary spending category. There's one other category of spending around here. That's mandatory spending. That's not subject to caps. That's just unlimited, whatever. The legislation puts the $280 billion in new spending in the mandatory spending category. What's really outrageous is in this legislation, they take the $400 billion that was going to be spent anyway, They take that out of discretionary spending and move it over to mandatory spending. Now, why would they do a thing like that? The reason is because that way you create a big gaping hole in the discretionary spending category, which can be filled with another $400 billion of totally unrelated spending. Who knows on what? I'm going to suggest the modification to the unanimous consent request, and that would be, it's very simple. It says nothing about the $280 billion in new spending that's permitted under this legislation. It simply would keep the $400 billion that we were going to spend anyway, keep it right in the category that it's always been in.
Sounds so reasonable.
Now-
So he said nothing changed in the bill,
Right.
except for that funding mechanism switch.
And so what I mean, first of all, where are the Republicans?
Pastor.
Jon Stewart, Joy Reid, people, what's the guy's name that just went, saying,
Tim Ryan.
Tim Ryan.
Why
Tim
the
Ryan,
hell
yeah.
can't we come together?
Ryan.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this should be getting pounded. The Democrats are holding veterans hostage.
Okay, so what's today? The 29th.
Yes.
This happened on the 23rd.
So that was
6
a week
days ago.
So-
6 days ago.
So why is it that Toomey didn't come out and say, hey, you guys, we love our veterans.
Right.
We are the people who fly the flag for the veterans more than any other party.
Yeah.
Right? Why is it that the liberals and the Democrats are going to hold our veterans as a form of hostage in order to be able to create a gimmick mechanism that gets them unlimited funds?
So they can get more money for whatever
they want to do.
Their pet projects are.
This is be ashamed. Why can't we come together? Because they're holding the people who we love hostage, and that is a shame.
That's the answer to Jon Stewart.
That's the answer. So, but they haven't. We had to go and dig this up
6 days ago.
All of the guys who voted against it, we couldn't find anybody except for Toomey, and he showed up in a Wall Street Journal article in a little blip there.
Right.
This wasn't public anywhere.
Right.
And because of this, the Democrats are getting out there first, telling the story, getting the narrative, and now look at the Republicans. They look like jerks.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
and they look
That's why
horrible.
it doesn't make it's crazy to me that people, or even Jon Stewart, who maybe he just doesn't have all the details in his mind, whatever, thinks the Republicans are like this against veterans.
But we couldn't even find it.
Yeah, no, we couldn't. Yeah. And
It was hard for us to find.
It looks bad, and you already have the narrative set up, and then you're like, they did what?
But one of the things that we had to pay attention to, one of our producers noticed it. She was like, Haley said, "Wait a second, some of these guys are actually veterans and sergeants."
Right.
So
Some of the Republicans who voted against
the
it.
Republicans
Right,
that voted against it?
Why would they vote against it?
vote against it? Which
Right.
made us dig a little deeper. Well,
Right.
why would they
Right.
vote against it? Well, and so they voted against it because they see the play and they're
Right.
using. Okay,
Right.
so remember the sex. What is it? The
Respect for Marriage Act.
But the
Sex with Animals Act.
I was thinking about Leviticus 18 Act. But what they did was they put interracial marriage right next to homosexuality.
That's what
right?
Joy Reid did.
They
Right.
jammed you.
Yep. Right.
So now they're taking veterans and say, you know how we can get more money?
Yep.
We can change and put a gimmick inside of the spending bill, and we use
Right.
veterans as the way. And so they jam you every
Yeah.
time.
What, you hate veterans?
Right, exactly.
Right.
And so
What, you're for interracial? You're against interracial marriage?
You're a racist.
You're a racist.
Exactly.
And you're against job growth.
And
for
you're
the CHIPS
against
bill.
competing with China.
Yeah.
And so you got $280 billion that goes to this bill,
Right.
right?
And this veteran bill, and you have $280 billion going into the CHIPS bill.
To the semiconductor
Yep,
bill. Now,
yep.
this is what was interesting. The semiconductor bill, $280 billion. We've known we had a problem with semiconductors for a while, ever since the pandemic, and mainly because most of them were made in China.
Right.
So it makes sense that, hey, we got to
Figure
stop.
out how to get this going in our country.
Because if they're able to make semiconductors, and guys, we use semiconductors in everything.
Everything, right.
Everything that's digital is semiconductor in some way or another. So it makes sense that we would want to get some of that production in-house so we can trust these people. But what they've done with the semiconductor bill, $280 billion, there are $52 billion worth of grants that
In the bill.
that Intel can have. But there's a caveat to this. In order for you to get that money, a certain someone has to sign off on the bill.
The bill required that I personally have to sign off on the biggest grants before they can be dispersed. It's not sufficient. I've got to sign off on the big ones.
So
I
wait.
got to sign off on the big
big
ones.
ones.
And you know that this so there's a couple things here. This bill dedicates public money to fostering a domestic semiconductor industry.
Okay.
That's the goal of the bill.
Yep.
And my dad worked for Texas Instruments, Intel, Hyundai Semiconductors, Micron, Air Liquide, all the stuff. And that industry has money.
Yeah.
Like this is crazy that we're giving this much money to this industry.
What else is in there?
Funny you should say that. So this bill, okay, let me say
real quick.
Go ahead.
So the bill will include money, allow for these companies to apply for it. Intel, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing. That's not
what? That's supposed to be all American. What's going on?
Global Foundries, Micron Technology, Applied Material, so forth. So it's not even all going to
America.
Well, there's incentives that are trying to make sure that the chip manufacturers make sure that they build local plants. So they're trying to incentivize that. I asked one of our producers to print off the bill. The bill is 1,054 pages. I said, yeah, don't do that to our printer. And so
more than the Calvin's Institute, as we've been talking about around here.
So, yeah,
wait. The bill for semiconductors is 1,000 pages.
1,054 pages to be exact. And so I just had him print off the first 9 pages because that's actually just the table of contents. Just the table of contents. So we started going through.
I would just vote against it on that. That's too long.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff. I mean, guys, this thing is packed. I mean, just for example, there is part of this, there's 14 pages that are dedicated to the semiconductor part. The rest of this is Green New Deal investment stuff. For instance, planes, quieter airplanes. There's a part in here that says...
Wait a second.
Yes,
how do quieter airplanes help us compete with China?
Cleaner, quieter airplanes. That's part of the initiative. Research and development initiative on reduction of greenhouse gases and noise emissions from aircraft. Here, you can look at that. Have fun.
Notice what they're doing with all these things.
Oh, yeah. Why?
They're holding these things hostage.
Exactly.
That's what they're doing. And Republicans, where are you?
Well, the thing is, I think Republicans like to hold things hostage as well, so they don't want to point it out too much, right? But we see it on both sides. But
because when you're guilty, you can't fight.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's right.
Yeah.
So when you go through the table of contents, one of the things that we picked up on was this:
ensure equity in research sponsorships.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
That looks like CRT.
If you didn't like CRT, and so speaking of CRT in schools, nobody's like, "Oh, pastor's really looking at this. This is going to go a different direction." Is the way he's
going to turn it.
If you didn't like CRT in your schools and you thought you might get it out in one way or another, you're wrong. You're not going to get out. There is a opportunity and inclusion part of this bill and also a chief diversity officer of the NSF, the National Science Foundation.
A diversity officer. That's what we're paying for too.
Yes, and this diversity officer qualifications need to be
diversity.
They need to be in civil rights compliance, harassment, policy review, and investigations, equal opportunity, employment, and disability policies. The duties of this officer is responsible for providing advice on policy oversight, guidance, and coordination with respect to matters of foundation related to the diversity and inclusion, including ensuring the geodemographic diversity of the foundation's programs. Other duties include, by the way, just want you to know.
Keep going with that seriously?
This
You're going to waste my time with going on?
This space nuclear propulsion program requires there to be a homosexual marriage on Mars. I'm kidding.
That was good.
No. Are there going to be interracial marriages there too? They probably put the same thing together.
They didn't even
Martian
that.
marriage.
Look, I can go through this. There's so much to go through this on just the chief diversity
officer.
officer.
It's the sons of men marrying the angels.
But when you're wondering whether or not Republicans can vote for something, they have basically taken this officer and put them over pre-K through 12. So that they can control because they got to, right? If you want chips manufactured and you want people to get inside that industry into science,
see what they're doing?
They're jamming you.
So, but notice again, this is a chips bill to compete with China.
Yeah.
Right.
Therefore, we have to reduce green emissions, make airplanes quieter, and run your schools.
Yeah. Listen to this.
But here's the thing: is the bigger issue here? It's just straight socialism.
Yeah.
It's socialism. They are buying Intel. Our government is buying Intel. They're buying Micron. They're buying all these industries. This is just straight up socialism. Everyone should be rejecting this.
I was going to read more of the chief diversity officers.
Stop.
But here, this is a good point. Why is it that we're against this? Ultimately, because the government has no responsibility to make jobs.
That's right.
What the government has a responsibility to do is to incentivize good.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we will want them to do is to make it easy for somebody who is in the ghetto to be able to start a semiconductor company as a person in the suburb. Remove the regulations, make the playing field even.
Which is again how you should reject it because it's 1,000 pages. In 3 pages, You could say the government needs to stop doing this, stop taxing this, stop regulating this, leave these people alone, stop harassing them, and get out of their neighborhoods. Let them make stuff.
This is
let them make money on the things that they make.
That's right.
This is a part of our government that makes laws, right? Yeah. And one of the things we know about biblical law is that it's negative. Right. This is not negative law.
No, you can tell because it's 1,000 pages long.
1,000 pages long.
Right. No, that's the thing. And the thing is that when a government is trying to be a god, this is what happens.
Yes.
Okay? And this is what totalitarianism is. Yeah. Totalitarianism is the attempt to control everything, the totality of human existence. But this is because if you don't have God as sovereign overall, then there's always someone trying to take his job.
Yeah.
And this is idolatry, it's wicked, and it doesn't work. Home. I want to go home now. Home, it's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told, and where you sing psalms with your family. Home is where you prepare to go out into the world. Finding the home that's perfect for your family, though, is a big job. Story Real Estate is Moscow's top real estate team. They give people real estate advice all over the country. Family homes, investments, land, new construction, or commercial, they know real estate. If you've thought about a move to Moscow, or actually anywhere in the country, you can reach out to get connected with a Story Real Estate agent. They actually have connections all over the country. Wherever you're going, they can help guide you home. Visit storyrealestate.com. It's time for the weekly wrap up. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Make sure we make our little announcement before you get into the weekly.
All right, I was going to save it for the end.
I know.
We're going to be out of the studio next week.
Neil's traveling, Toby's traveling, me and Knox are traveling.
I like how you blamed on the production.
We're going to be running a bunch of great reruns, though.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great reruns.
It's
all
like
week long.
Fresh Prince reruns all week long.
I hope they don't smack you
without the apology.
Okay. All right, so just to warm you up for all those Fresh Prince reruns next week, on Monday, we talked about Sodom and Gomorrah because it was trending on Twitter. I don't know if we ever figured out why it was, but a bunch of liberals started doing Bible studies on the book of Ezekiel.
Praise God.
So we joined in. Apparently, they read the Bible with the attention of a fruit fly, which really does make it challenging. But we were thankful for the opportunity and talked about the failure of journalism and simply reporting facts and truth, especially when it comes to things like climate science. Speaking of journalism, on Tuesday, we had Denise McAllister on the show to talk about how she got canceled by conservatives for calling out homosexuality. And if you haven't caught the show yet, you really need to, because if you want to know why the Daily Wire is hosting Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin talking about his delusional marriage to another man, how they went shopping for eggs, rented a couple of wombs, have freezers full of breast milk, and are intentionally planning to raise children without a mother, well, our conversation with Denise is a good place to start. In case you were wondering, none of those things are actually conservative. And now the Daily Wire is planning to make children's shows to groom your children just like Disney. So you should definitely give them all your money. Or maybe not. But I could have told you that back when Jeremy Boring dropped his razor ad and walked around like a pimp.
And you did tell him that, actually.
I did. That's like owning the libs with a 20-week abortion ban. Oh, wait, that's exactly what we're doing. Wednesday was Beer and Psalms. I'm thankful to report that Gabe repented of drinking scotch at Beer and Psalm Wednesday.
I was praying for that.
And joined us drinking beer with a baby eating oatmeal on the label. Which I don't know what that means, but which was definitely very manly of all of us. We talked about monkeypox and how 99% of the people who are getting it are homosexuals participating in promiscuous homosexual sex. Even Fauci said that.
And the other 1% were trans.
Okay, turns out disobeying God is not only bad for you, it's also bad for you. We also talked about how the prison system is not working and costs bazillions of dollars every year. The number one reason people are in prison, taking experimental drugs not approved by the FDA for emergency use, which, by the way, is not a crime in the Bible. And we pointed out that prisons are mostly bad in the Bible. Turns out, disobeying God is bad for you, and it costs you bazillions of dollars. The psalm of the day, of course, was Psalm 149, all about the politics of praise, how singing psalms is executing judgments on the nations. Yesterday was Thursday, as it usually is, and Chocolate Knox came out of the closet as a Christian intergalacticist. Gabe and I were a little unsure at first, but when the music came on, we decided to join the movement. We also talked to Troy Miller, the CEO of NRB, about the fight for religious broadcasting freedom, which is way bigger than you thought, and emerging technologies and markets. Time for Christians to get their creative game on.
That's right.
And flood the market with truth, beauty, and goodness. I'm way over my word count for this wrap-up, but I wanted to end up by keying off something for Psalm 149, and that is the fact that God's warrior psalm singers sing aloud on their beds. We're not going to retake culture apart from this. We're not going to retake journalism. We're not going to retake the public square unless we are people who sing God's praises in our homes, around our dinner tables, in the car on road trips, yes, aloud on our beds. Rosaria Butterfield pointed out that hospitality and community was an enormous part of her lesbianism before she found Jesus. And it was only the psalm singing fellowship and love of a church community that could actually compete with that. If we want to see conservatives stop kissing up to Dave Rubin and grooming our children, we need to fight with the joy of the Lord. And I don't mind pointing out that one of the things that happens in bed is joyful lovemaking.
That's right.
That's part of the reason why God's people sing aloud on their beds. Stories win, singing wins, dancing wins, making
Lovemaking wins. I was going to put that in there for you.
The joy of the Lord always wins.
Did you say, but I think you said.
Yeah, I did.
You said what I
And it's Friday. just going to say that too.
All right. Hey, by the way, you didn't even get a chance to. Pastor Toby does these wrap ups and he skips every time everything we talk in the back room, like in the backstage.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, every time. And it's okay. It's okay because that's a surprise.
That's for club members.
It's kind of like what happens in the bedroom. It's private.
No. You
can't.
Take it away from him, Toby. Take it away.
That doesn't work.
That's something I would say. You don't do that.
No, but I mean, it's like, it's private. It's for only members. People have to be in
interracial marriage and homo marriage. I mean, no, it's not.
What? No, that's not even close. Now, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm closer to Knox on that one. I don't know how that happened, but it did.
I just want to say the backstage is where some amazing conversations happen with our guests that are on the show.
There is a lot of joy back there.
There is a lot of it, and it's whatever's back there is fruitful too. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh.
If you're
Stop
single, get married.
We need a week off.
End the show.
Be married, have you some kids. If you have kids, go baptize them until next week after. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. We're going backstage because I still want to say some stuff.
Enjoy the Fresh Prince reruns.
No, we're not.
Hi, I'm Robert Borton, CEO of Classical Conversations, the world's largest classical Christian homeschooling community. I'm launching a new podcast, Refining Rhetoric. If you like cross-politics or just listen to hear what crazy stuff they're saying today, you will enjoy Refining Rhetoric. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform. I practice the 15 tools of learning by interviewing great guests, looking at current events, and talking about cryptocurrency.
This is where Dave and I plan this year's company holidays.
Let's go through the list.
Easter.
Too religious.
St. Patrick's Day.
Too white. Mother's Day.
Way too cisgendered.
All of your usual holidays have been canceled this year.
But we still have Karl Marx's birthday!
Need a real reason to party? Find a new job at redballoon.work.